is the saucy Aussie, Jay Croucher, who I said, NBC sports betting analyst on Twitter at CroucherJD. I said during the end of the last segment, I think, is it possible that you have more airtime on NBC than like Matthew Perry did, rest in peace? You're on 50 times an hour, dude. You're like the star of NBC right now, no?
Yeah, that's certainly the way that I see it, Nick. Me, the star of NBC. One thing I do want to get out there, because I'm just telling everyone that has a pulse who will listen, is that because I do these voiceovers for all these reads on NBC, is that in studio
for a conflicting sports book, and this is how good Jay Croucher is that Jay knows not to say the name of the sports book because it's a conflicting sports book to BetMGM, just like you're the best, dude.
I was going to say, I caught myself there. But anyway, because I do all these reads for this not-to-be-named sportsbook, Carmelo Anthony has christened me the voice, which I'm trying to tell everyone. I'm trying to get going. It hasn't ignited at all. It hasn't caught any flames. Melo says it every time that he sees me. No one else says it at NBC. No one else says it in my real life, despite me telling all of my friends. But I'm trying to get that going belatedly.
Actually, it doesn't really answer the question. Does Carmelo Anthony know your first name?
Yeah, he knows my first name. I see him every...
Because I'm watching this, I'm literally watching, I'm like, I think I would actually bet that Melo doesn't know Jay's name.
No, he knows my name. I see him twice a week for the past 4 months. And we're in studio together. We're in makeup together twice a week. Yeah, he knows my name. I don't know, he wouldn't know the name of my second child, but he knows my name.
So can I just
Remy, by the way.
This is shout out to Remy. This is a really inside the business thing, but like Jay and I are both in the business. So I watch some of these, right? Like the stand-ups you do with Melo. And like, all of this, I think I love all of this, right? But like, it's you set him up on time. How far in advance do you do some of those? Because it's like before Game 7, I think it was it Magic Pistons, one of the Game 7s on Sunday. I'm watching it, and you're like Melo, like what's the opinion of this game? And he's like, well, the home team really feeds off the crowd in Game 7, and I give them the edge without ever saying a team that's playing in the game or any of the players. How far in advance did you guys record those? Not a criticism at all.
Oh, there might be some evergreen considerations around letting those be able to apply to multiple Game 7s. You can either confirm or deny, but that may be part of the process, yeah.
I loved it, man. All right, I had to, because, dude, like, I'm so happy for the success. I love when I hear your voice and I see you on TV. You're doing an awesome job at NBC. Okay, let's talk some NBA playoffs here. I mean, I guess, like, what's interesting to you right now, betting-wise, in the NBA playoffs? Anything?
Yeah, I think the most interesting thing, in a way, and this will be close to your heart, is just exactly how dominant are the Knicks, because I think you got to treat them for now as tier 1 by themselves in the East. The odds reflect that. But 2 weeks ago, this team was like plus 110 to get out of a series against the Atlanta Hawks, who are not particularly imposing. But since then, you've got to ramp up their rating naturally, because they've had one of the most dominant 4-game stretches in NBA playoff history since then. And there are caveats. The Sixers are coming off that war in Game 7. They had nothing in the tank. The Hawks probably, just in retrospect, not that good. But at the same time, these are still playoff teams, and the Knicks have just absolutely destroyed them over the course of these 4 games. And you look back at the first 3 games of the Atlanta series, the underlying stuff there suggests that the Knicks were pretty unlucky to be down 2-1. So I don't really get it. I don't really get how the Knicks have gotten to this level. I guess my theories would be, 1, I've never seen Karl Anthony Towns play defense at this level, particularly against the Hawks. His rim protection was incredible, even in some of the losses earlier in the series. I think as well, like, Miles McBride is a really important part of this team. The Knicks had a plus 12 net rating when he was on the floor in the regular season. He missed more than half the regular season with injury, and I think that probably suppressed a lot of their numbers before the playoffs. And also, you just wonder how much, this is a veteran team, how much were they just taking the regular season off and just waiting for the playoffs, because they've clearly found an extra gear.
Is there a bet to be made with the Knicks?
I don't think so. I think that their current price to win the East is fair. The way into betting the Knicks, I think, and riding the upside, is betting them to sweep Philly. That would be my only Knicks-related bet at the moment, just off the idea that, 1, tapping into them potentially being a juggernaut or juggernaut-adjacent type of team, and also just the fact that this series is every other day. That Joel Embiid, who I thought Joel Embiid was going to die on the court in Game 7. That was ridiculous against Boston. Just the level of fatigue that he's dealing with. Seems like, he's stretching out his side, that he's had the appendix issue. Like, the man's just been in the wars. And the idea that
he had an appendectomy less than a month ago. Like, literally had had surgery. Like, I had an organ removed.
Yeah, it's serious stuff. Most guys take a lot longer to come back from that than Joel Embiid did. And just the footage on NBC, I believe, of him being stretched out to the side in Game 7. Like, oh, yeah, that's where he had the surgery on his appendix. This is ridiculous stuff. So I do think, I think Nick Nurse is a really good coach. I think he makes a lot of adjustments. But this Sixers team, as gallant as they were against Boston and as good as Embiid and Maxey and George are, this is still a fairly limited team. This is still a team that's relying on Andre Drummond and these type of players. Justin Edwards is playing minutes in a Game 7. This team hasn't been able to rebound all year with Embiid on the floor. They play really small. They're stuck with Embiid playing in this drop coverage, which I don't think is great in terms of your playoff adaptability. The fact that he can't really switch and get out on the floor, and he just has to do so much. He doesn't have the energy to expend on both sides and to rebound as well. So I do think there are worlds where the bottom could just fall out of Philly, and the Knicks are better than we expect, and that this is just 4-0. And I think that's pretty generously priced at the moment.
I don't know if you agree with me on this. We haven't talked about it, but I'm going to guess that you do, right? Which is that it'll be Thunder Knicks in the NBA Finals and the Thunder will win. Like, I've been consistent on that all season. But I think where I would say that my opinion has changed at least a little bit, right? Because I've said all season long, the Knicks can't beat the Thunder. And it really makes like all my Knicks fan friends and like people very mad to say that. I felt that it's been true basically the entire season until the other night. Now, that doesn't mean if they played, I would bet the Knicks, or I would just I would root for the Knicks. I just want them to win. I'm guessing you still like the Thunder, but is there a scenario that now exists for you, Jay, where they play a 7-game series and everybody's healthy? It's not like Shea gets hurt, right? J-Dub comes back and the Knicks can actually beat Oklahoma City in the NBA Finals. They're plus 850 to win it all right now at BetMGM.
Yeah, look, I think they would be substantial dogs in that series naturally. I think the OKC are a superior team. OKC will have home court in that series as well. But look, I think there are worlds where the Knicks are not drawing dead in that series. They're not going to be a 20-1 shot to beat OKC if both teams are fully healthy. I think it's more like a 12 to 15% chance they win that series against OKC. But I think where the hope would come from the Knicks is that Jalen Williams just doesn't get right. And look, I think Jalen Williams, he'll come back before the finals, but there's a chance that he could just re-aggravate his hamstring. He's done it, I think. Now he's done both sides of his legs, but I think he's had 3 hamstring injuries separately this season. And look, I thought last night was kind of instructive for the downside scenario for OKC, because even though they won by 18, I thought OKC played really poorly against the Lakers last night, and they didn't have a ton of answers. And look, a lot of it was probably just rust, and Shea was turning the ball over for fun, which he never does. But the offense really is just Shea, and everything else is extremely secondary. And if Shea is not playing at a great level, then the offense can be a little gummy and stuck in the mud. Just last night, they just didn't play with a ton of force and effort. It felt like a November game for a lot of last night. So I do think that to really activate their juggernaut status, I think OKC do need Jalen Williams firing. Now, before he went down the most recent time, he just looked like J-Dub. He looked like he was all the way back. He was playing with a ton of force. His shot, the wrist seems to be fixed. So I do think that OKC, they need Jalen Williams back to really roll at, juggernaut historic team type of level. But if he's not 100%, or if he does get re-injured, then I do think there are worlds where the Knicks could beat them. I think that so long as Shea is healthy, I think that OKC would roll against any of the other 3 teams in the East, though.
You used the word juggernaut about 4 times in this interview. I just want to let you know that my favorite usage of juggernaut was juggernaut adjacent. I enjoyed that. I said the juggernaut adjacent. Can you be juggernaut adjacent? We have too much sports.
Yeah, the Knicks are there right now.
The juggernaut.
Who's the
Can you
character
be juggernaut adjacent?
Yeah, the Knicks are juggernaut adjacent. Who's the character? Is Juggernaut from the Marvel
from
universe?
X-Men. Yeah. Payne Marco is his name. This is my huge nerd. Yeah, man, dude. I'm a
He kind of looks like Jalen Duren. Yeah.
Dude. Would you like to walk back the Jalen Duren being the best Jalen take? In like, just
shouldn't
give me
have brought
10 seconds on
that
that.
up. Yeah, look, it hasn't been a great 3 weeks for the Jalen Duren top 14, 12, whatever player in the NBA that I said. But here's the thing, he's 22 years old. His regular season was incredible. He played an all-NBA level.
Okay,
but
thank you.
He needs to figure some stuff out because he looks absolutely rattled. This is like
arguing with my wife. I have presented incontrovertible evidence that you are wrong. Well, I'm not. Yeah. You bet on this Wednesday. Jay Croucher, our guest from NBC Sports. Yes?
Yeah, I'll put Jalen Brunson ahead of Jalen Duren in the Jalen rankings again. Jalen Brown, we'll see.
San Antonio minus 185 in the series against the Wolves. Wolves plus 150 following Minnesota's Game 1 win. Game 2 tonight. Do you have a betting thought on tonight or the rest of the series with the Wolves and the Spurs?
Yeah, I think my macro thought here would be that I think a lot of the concerns that you would have had going into the playoffs about San Antonio have really borne out. The fact that this offense has been stuck in mud. The offense wasn't great against Portland. They really struggled against a Portland defense that I think is solid at full health, but certainly not world beaters. And then the offense was pretty bad against Minnesota in Game 1. And look, the thing with Wemby is that I think Wemby is already the second best player in the NBA. But his offense still has a long way to go. You give Wemby the ball and just ask him to break down a defense and attack off the dribble. There's not a ton that he can actually do. It's a lot of being pushed into off-balance fadeaways. He took too many threes against Minnesota in Game 1. He just doesn't really have the game yet or the physicality. I think his body's just not filled out to the extent where he can really create high-level offense by himself. His value on offense is that he's the greatest lob threat of all time, and he has a ton of aerial gravity there. But this team has limitations on offense, the lack of shooting from Stephon Castle, the fact that, De'Aaron Fox as a lead ball handler is probably a little bit overmatched. He shouldn't be that guy on a championship team. Now, the defense has been as good as advertised, 12 blocks from Wemby, albeit really 8 and then 4 goaltends. But on defense, he has been absolutely insane in the playoffs. But I think that between the concerns about the offense and also the concerns about can Wemby sustain this effort level? It looks like not quite Joel Embiid Game 7 in Boston type fatigue, but Wemby said that he was extremely tired after Game 1. He's dealt with fatigue throughout this season. It looked like he was going to pass out in the regular season game against the Clippers in March. So I think that there are concerns about Wemby being able to sustain effort, Wemby having enough energy to give them juice on offense. The issue is that this Minnesota team is just so banged up, and Dante being out really hurts. Ayo has a calf strain. If they keep calling it like tightness or injury maintenance. Ayo has strained his calf. He would not be missing Game 6 against the Nuggets in Game 1 of this series if he didn't have a calf strain. So that is a concern. The fact that Ant is not fully revved up. I think that San Antonio will ultimately gut through this series, but I think the really high ceiling outcomes for them, you got to scale back expectations a bit just because of how suspect the offense looks.
I do want to do a little hockey here, so give me 30 seconds here. Cavs, Pistons. Detroit wins last night. Pistons minus 225, up 1-0. Cavs plus 185. I think the Cavs are going to come back and win the series. I don't say that with a ton of confidence. What say you, Jay, in 30 seconds?
Yeah, that is kind of my gut sense as well, even though I would have to make Detroit favorites to win the series, given they've banked Game 1. And look, I don't think Kenny Atkinson's a great coach. I think we have 2 playoff go-arounds of that as evidence. I don't understand why he's fouling out Jared Allen by himself. Jared Allen ended up at 18 minutes and 4 fouls. That's just indefensible. Why is Thomas Bryant playing 10 minutes? Why are Dennis Schroeder and Keon Ellis combining for 27 minutes in round 2 of the playoffs? So I don't trust Atkinson, but ultimately I think that this Detroit team is fairly limited and the Cavs should bounce back. I thought that what they showed in Game 7 against Toronto and the level of physicality and force that they played with there was very encouraging. Cannot trust this Cleveland team clearly, but I do think that they will bounce back, and that at the very least this is going to be a long series.
Lightning round. We don't have a ton of time here. 30 seconds for this one. True or false? The Stanley Cup final will be Colorado over Carolina.
True. I agree with that. I think that those are the clear. Look, Carolina's benefiting from a very soft conference. If they had to play Vegas in the conference finals, then that would get very interesting, but they don't. They're in the East, and I think they are the clear class of the East. I think they will get through with this easy path. And then Colorado, again, not to use juggernaut for the 5th time in the segment, but they are a proper juggernaut. They're not juggernaut adjacent. They are squarely in juggernaut land. And having banked this 2-0 lead over Minnesota, they should progress there. And then they will, with home ice and with being the better team, they should beat whoever gets out of the other series, which is likely going to be Vegas.
Yes or no, Cale Makar is the best value to win Conn Smythe.
Yeah, it's interesting. Makar coming off the injury, obviously, he ignited himself with that outrageous scoring game in game 1. I do think that the more interesting side of allocating Conn Smythe equity is Carolina, just because even if we think that Colorado is going to win, the fact
Freddie
that
Anderson?
Carolina. Yeah, I think Freddie.
Only saying that because we're running out of because we're really running out of time here. Final
I just think
question.
That he's so correlated with them actually winning.
10 seconds for this one. Who are we betting on today, PSG or Bayern in the Champions League semi to see who plays Arsenal?
I think Bayern progress. I think the Hakimi issue is Hakimi being out is a problem, and I think that Bayern their underlying stats are a lot better in the first leg. Bayern
Who
Arsenal
wins?
For all the marbles.
Who wins? And if that's the final.
Arsenal win 1-0 in extra time.
Let me tell you something, man. We'll revisit this conversation if and when we get there. I feel like you are an honorary gunner at this point, following Manchester City's draw against Everton on Monday. I'll do a little soccer later in the show. You're the best. Congrats on the success. We'll talk soon.
A pleasure. Thanks, mate.